Today on PFD Auto, we're going to continue plumbing. Previously, you saw me do some AN stuff for the first time that I'd ever tried it, and it worked out pretty good. So we're going to continue on with that theme. There's some other things that we need to plumb in here. Now, I've been doing some research, and I've been told I can use this stuff for power steering also. So that's what we're going to tackle today. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we actually need to do. This is the original Mercedes power steering box. Now, you've seen me paint this thing twice now, actually, but it is what's going to give us steery feelings. This right here, I believe, is the high pressure. This is the return. This is a Miata power steering pump. Why a Miata power steering pump? Well, it works with this bracket, and I had to relocate a bunch of stuff to get this guy in here. Anyways, this is our high pressure on the Miata power steering pump. This is our return. Then we've got the elephant in the room. When I say elephant, I mean large. This thing is massive. I mean, my hand covers it up, but just barely. As you can see, it's got some ORB ports in the bottom to run AN lines out of. Now, the thing with this is it needs to be upright. Power steering's all on this side. There ain't nothing flat to mount it to on this side. The only way I think we're going to get away with it is to mount it over here. But the problem with that is there's going to be all kinds of hot things over here, and I don't think hot power steering fluid is what you want. My other option is to run it down here. I'm a little concerned about that only because how's it going to bleed? If I take this thing and put it over there, it is going to be down below everything. The bottom of this will be below the steering box. And I don't know if that'll work or not, but I'm going to take a look, see if there's anywhere else we can mount this thing, and then go from there. Now that you see what I'm working with, I'm going to take a second, look around, make sure that I pick the best option for the location of that reservoir. And then we'll start running lines and get this finished up. How about option 3? How about right here? I kind of like it. And since I already put a nut cert right there, I think this is where it's going to end up. Now, it is a little close to everything, but it's far enough back from this here, which I'm a little concerned about because there still needs to be coolie stuff here. And I'm thinking intercooler, fans. So there needs to be some definite room between here and here. I can move this in the future, but I think I'm going to plumb it out to right here. I've got some 3/8 MPT on the way since I thought these were 6 ORB, and they are not. Now we can start working on the plumbing from the power steering pump and the box to this. We just can't finish because I don't have the correct ports. And here is our power steering pump. This is the heart, literally. This is what pumps power steering fluid through. We need to get from there to there. And we need to get from here to back there. So I'm thinking 90 from here and a banjo bolt from here, which I've been thinking about for a while, and I picked one up. The problem with this here banjo bolt is that when you try to connect it, there ain't no way. I'm going to have to pull this entire power steering pump off to get this banjo bolt on. Tried every way I can think, and not even removing that screw is going to help. So I'm going to pull this off, I'm going to put this on, and then we'll start thinking about where we're going to plumb to. Anybody know what this is hanging out on the side of this thing? It's a plug for some sort of sensor trim a Miata. If you know, drop me a line. I'd like to know what that is. Now this, I'm thinking, needs to go straight up and down. I don't know if you can see how much room we've got between here and here, but it ain't a lot. Custom life. We'll get this in here finger tight, and then we'll just grab a wrench. And so now that we got that on there, we've got this port here too. I think we're gonna 90 both of these straight back and run them back underneath there. Well, I was hoping for 90s like these. I don't think these are gonna work. I asked for hard 90s and I got these. This one might work for here. They're a little tall. Let's see, what I was hoping for was ones that looked like these Amazon ones. But doing this, I mean, that's just not gonna work. That's not going to work. I wonder how it would work if we use these. I think we could get away with that. Let's try it. Yeah, I'm scavenging parts from the fuel system, but what are you gonna do? I think that would have to 90 again to do that. I don't know how great that is for anything. That just barely clears right there. So that didn't go very well. I ordered some 120s. I think that's what we're gonna need to get down in between there. Yeah, that's kind of holding us up. Between that, not having the MPTs for the bottom of the reservoir, the only thing that I today basically was put this banjo bolt on, take that apart and put it back together. You can see I used one of my 90s over there because, well, that fitting was trashed, and I think that looks a little bit better. It doesn't match now with all of our hard 90s, but hey, it's not marred. I did toss in these fittings here, which take our M14 1.5 and M12 1.5 and convert it to AN. So that's done-ish. They're not tightened, but they're there. So as soon as I get that piece and then the two pieces for this, then I can run some lines. Until then, we're just kind of waiting. Well, it's a new day. The parts have arrived. We can go ahead and finish up this power steering system, check one more thing off the list. So the last thing we were working on was trying to figure out how we're going to get these lines here over there to all the rest of the power steering stuff. And what I'm hoping is going to work is this guy. This is a 120-degree angle fitting that is a hose end. So I'm going to try one of these on there and see if it solves our problem. Well, that looks like a failure on this one. Number one, doesn't even really want to screw onto here. I wonder if it's just that cheaply made. This is more Amazon garbage. But it just, even if it's screwed on, I don't think that's going to give us the angle that we need. They do make 150 degrees. So that's what I'm going to have to buy. This one, however, we might get by with it. Then we could make at least one line today. And what do you know, it fits its cheap counterpart. That is massive. It does just clear though, and I think I could get it to go there, but then that piece over there, I guess. Let's grab a piece of line and see how it looks. So it would be there, which means it would run straight into our, yeah, that's not going to work. We need 150s. Well, Amazon, guess what? You get 2 of these back, and I get to order some new parts. Well, since that's not going to work, let's just move on. I got some other pieces too. This is a 3/8 MPT to AN6, just like the rest of our stuff, and swivels. Fancy. This is exactly what we need for the bottom of the power steering reservoir. So let's get these in and see if we can maybe even connect up a line. So I pulled the power steering reservoir out for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to make putting these ends on tremendously easier. Number two, there's still a couple things we need to do to make this fully functional. And if we're going to have it in the car and it's going to be mounted, why don't we have it set up right? Then we'll just have to go back and do that later. Now that I've stalled long enough, got some of these pieces out. And what these do is, one is a baffle. Then there's some mounting screws and some O-rings. So we need to have an O-ring around the bottom and the top, and we need to get this baffle in the correct port. The baffle goes on the low side, and we'll make sure that it's on the right side there. In the meantime, there's one seal. It doesn't look quite as cool, the little gap there, but guarantee you it'll seal better. And then this guy, I think it just presses down in there. I think you just pick. There it is. Now, we've got these guys, but they're MPT. So I'm going to use some of this terrible yellow plumber's tape. So hopefully it doesn't leak. Now, if I remember correctly, I'll get this on the right way. So it screws on like that, which means you want to go around that way. I'm only going to put this on the very top because I'm hoping it doesn't stick out. And let's see if this even works. So I bought this 6AN wrench. It doesn't fit anything, that 6AN, except for one part of the fitting from the company I bought it from. This adjustable wrench fits everything, but also comes loose. Really easy. Well, that's very nice. Still adjustable, even though I've got this thing cranked in there. Now we can put the other one on and then get it back in the car. All right, tight, ready to go. Let's see if we made it the right length. It's a new day here at PFD Auto. Well, morning, bright, sunny morning. We've got some new ends to try to get this power steering stuff wrapped up. These are high flow. Not sure what that means or if it makes a difference, but we've got them. This one is 150 degrees and this one's 120 degrees. So we're going to toss them on the power steering pump here and see if we can't get this line run. So here's the game plan. We're going to try to use these different degrees of fittings. See if we can run these lines behind the intake manifold. That way we can kind of keep it out of the way of anything in the front and, you know, looking a little bit nicer. So if I can get this line set up to where it's not touching anything and it'll run down to the steering box, that'll be our first win. Then if we can use this one to get down to the power steering reservoir, this might actually work. But until we build the lines and see how it all works, we won't know. So let's build some lines. So I've been cutting this with cutoff wheel, and that kind of works, but it really does a number on the other end. So I've been kind of looking up on what to use, and tried this morning. Just a hacksaw with a pretty fine tooth blade. It seemed to do a pretty good job. Now, it mars the inside a little bit, which I was able to clean up with just a razor knife. But it is a lot quieter, it is a lot easier, and it does the job, I think, a tiny bit better. The other trick I learned is to wrap it tightly with electric tape. Before I was just kind of looping it on there, but if you put it on a little bit tighter, I think it holds the wire a little bit nicer. So I'm going to chop this up and put a new end on it, and then we're going to see if this is actually going to work. So this is how the line looks after cutting it with the hacksaw, and I really like the way the sheathing and the braiding come out. Now the inside you can see is tapered down because it just kind of mushes the PTFE line in there. But with a little bit of razor knife action, it cleans up pretty nice. Just like this. So I just cleaned up, being very careful not to cut the edge. And now I can stuff my ferrule on there, and my locking nut, and we can put this end on. There we have it, another end. Now, this one doesn't look particularly great, but I think it'll work. And it's going to be stuffed way down in the car, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see if it fits. Now we've got our high pressure line. It's not tight or anything. I haven't even cleaned out the hose, but it's fitting. It's not rubbing. It's out of the way of the alternator. Now we need to see if this guy works. This one is going to come down here, similar route to this, but over to the reservoir. Then there's a line out from the reservoir that's going to come straight over here to our low pressure end of the steering box. All right, line's on, good and tight. Now let's measure it up and get the other side done. So this is what I decided on. It's gonna run just past the alternator, down through there just like I thought. I'll show you what I did to make this all kind of work together. So the first thing I did is I kicked this back just a little bit, which opens up some room here. So let's get this installed, and I'll show you why that matters. So here's the top side, and it's a little busy, but if you see down in there, it just barely misses everything. Kind of looks like it's touching there, but it's not, trust me. Then it comes down here and misses this hose. Then it goes, let's see if we can, then it goes down here and just misses this brake line right into our power steering reservoir. Now we need to make a line from over here, run it up next to that line, over to this one, and that completes the loop. So let's get that line built and in, then we'll have one more thing checked off the list. Unfortunately, I went to go make that last line, and I realized that when I was at Texas Speed the other day, I must have been really impressed with the place, because they handed me all my stuff, I looked it over, and didn't realize that I didn't get nylon coated line. Since we've done all black already, I'm not doing one line in silver. So until I get out to Texas Speed and swap this out for some black line, that's gonna wrap this project for now. It's yet another day and another shirt. And the last line that we need. I managed to score a little bit of this PTFE line, threw some ends on it. Now we're gonna put it in the car, finish this up. So let's recap. We have our reservoir half mounted, but it's there. We've got our low pressure line going to our box. Coming from the box, we have our high pressure line coming up to here. Low pressure comes out, back down to the reservoir. And with that, we have one more checked off the list. Now, there's definitely some things that we're probably going to have to work on. I have no idea what the flow rate's going to be. And the flow rate is really going to make a difference on how it feels. Now, they sell little adapters and things that happen to be AN that we can put on there to restrict the flow. If it's not enough flow, that's where we're going to have a bigger problem. But until we get some fluid in there and the engine on, we're not going to be able to tell. So for now, we're going to consider this button dot. And with that, we're going to bring this episode to an end. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you like this content, give it that thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. And we'll see you next time on PFD Auto.